I want to live and feel all of the shades, tones, and variations of mental and physical experiences in my life, and I'm horribly limited. A quote by Sylvia Plath that has largely resonated with me over the last 4 months. Let me tell you about it. I had been attending college for the last year and a half, constantly pursuing my dream to be a photographer. I was juggling 3 jobs whilst also being a full-time student. I had only one thing keeping me going. My dream of moving out of my parents' house in my dull seaside town and become a full-time concept photographer living in Glasgow. But due to my lifestyle, I became extremely burnt out. My mental health largely started to deteriorate, and so did my motivation to go to college. I began to feel so overwhelmed and fell largely behind with my work. I began to also lack passion within my work, not even just my college work, but just within my own passion projects, even though I was still really in love with photography. This concept weaved through my mind and started constantly nagging me, so I decided to leave college in order to kind of reinvent myself and find myself again. Actually being able to take time to focus and reflect on mental health actually coincidentally created my new photography series. During November and December, I'd become increasingly depressed, and I had started to reflect upon all of the different women I had been and the woman I had become. I realised that I'd been carrying trauma from each one of them, and I had merely only changed my appearance when one had become too much for me to bear. In realising this, I felt really distressed, but oddly content. I decided to put my anger and grief into my art. I began to read my own journals, and I listened to my own playlists to try and fully immerse myself as much as I could in different time periods in my life. I started to write down some vague ideas for my shoots, but then came the question, who was I going to use as a model? I knew that for the more personal shoots that I wanted to use somebody that I knew very well, like my best friend Ruthie. And then as I started developing all my other ideas, I felt like this would be a really gripping idea to use for all of my shoots, as I feel like I could comfortably execute my ideas better. This project is still something I'm actually currently developing. I'm honestly not sure if I'll ever be finished doing it, but that's also because I don't really like to take self-portraits as much as I wish I could, and I feel like this is kind of my way of expressing that, but within a different format. And there's also as well some stories behind the images that I'm not comfortable to share, as I feel like it's too personal and it's still really entangled in my subconscious. Also just creating these images as well have been a huge help in the healing process for me and dealing with all these big massive emotions, and this series as well has also just really allowed for me to get out of a massive creative slump. Like for an example, this image of my best friend Ruthie, I've never really been somebody that's liked light painting. I've always kind of been like, it's never been my thing, but we set a t-shirt on fire to create this image in the middle of the woods at night, and I had my friend Alistair holding up 2 torches to allow for more light to come in, and even just that was something that I would have never have done before, but I really enjoyed doing it and we all had a lot of fun. My plan just now is to take another year out and save as much as I possibly can to be able to afford to move to Glasgow next year. I'm also still doing my freelance stuff on the side, which is all my concert stuff. If you want to check that out, it's on my Instagram, which is linked below. But I have a few exciting other projects coming up as well, which will be really fun. If you're wanting to have a little look at any of the photos from this series, it's on my Instagram, which is micaelliehill.photography, which will be linked below.